I was the designated photographer before we left, but I didn't take all these. Before we had set up.
Test.
Is this better? Yeah, okay. So we had said a prayer before we left. We had gathered up into this group, but one of our parties, the Brad and your mom's name is Jill, sorry. Brad and Jill had a deer on their way to the church at 4:30 Friday morning, or Saturday morning. Mika's having a birthday party today. She doesn't hear me. So Brad and Jill had hit a deer on the way in, so we decided we better say a prayer before we go further, and we prayed that we wouldn't run into any more deer on the way up. So we didn't, but Tad rolled a skunk. I drove around it. Mika didn't know what was going on, and she hit it. So she had a smelly car.
He's going to have a suitcase that's overweight because you're limited to 50 pounds. Well, Mika wins that. She came with a 5-pound suitcase, and we had to repack, and she was last with a lot besides the deer. This is 4:30 in the morning?
4:30 in the morning on Saturday morning before we left.
What price we got here?
Does anyone in my back got it? So this is in there was two. There was two buses at the parking area that drove us to the airport, and this was taken on the bus. Is this going to, you're forwarding? Okay. And this is the other bus, and there is most of the baggage up there in front, but it's not all of it. So we're in the airport. We had landed, and we were looking for our 23 bags. So it was a 5-hour flight, and there was no food on the flight other than drinks. I think there was just drinks, right? So some people went and got breakfast and maybe lunch. So this is where we're in line getting our tickets and checking our bags.
Yeah, no problem. Just left that after I got food and went to the restaurant, come back. Dad lost 2 mornings. So he didn't panic mode. Fortunately, he just went up to the counter there and they were putting another order again. He had to be kept on for it. We did get him on the plane, but he was panicking that he was going to have to and hit the right.
So yeah, it was a 5-hour flight. It was the first time for some of them. So they're really interested in seeing what they could see. And the 19 of us took up several rows of seats. I don't know who took this picture.
So this is about Puerto Rico. Who took that up? So Savannah took that. That's your first getting there.
Over San Juan as we're getting ready to land.
Trying to figure out whose suitcase is whose.
Some of us had 2. So then we all loaded into a 15-passenger van, but there's 19 of us. So then we had to put all the bags in a different vehicle because we couldn't get bags and people into one.
two vans and a vehicle to get us to where we were going to stay.
Here's
The shots here of San Juan.
This is the church that we stayed at, Iglesia Bautista de Metropolis. And then we stayed in bunkhouses behind the church.
This is a church that was actually rebuilt after the last hurricane. We speculate maybe they got some concrete.
There's a pretty unique, well-rounded tree behind our bunkhouse, so that's got a picture of that. I didn't take it. Anybody else want to say anything about this?
This guy that the boys are talking to was the president of the church, and he was kind of just giving them a tour out back. And that's them again, just talking to that president of that church.
This is the boys' bunkhouse. This is the back half of our building.
The guys and the girls were in separate rooms. The girls are not allowed into our room, and we're not allowed into their room.
But they didn't have doors.
There's no doors on there.
So here's our friend that was up in our the girls' room, the little four-legged lizard. They were welcome to be in our building. We were asked not to remove them. Here's the shower houses. There's about 4 showers there.
So that's our shower facility.
It's kind of like a campground type place.
And 2 more showers there. Some of the people were concerned because one of the doors didn't lock on that shower, so they didn't like to use it for some reason.
And then the bathrooms are on the other side, so we had to go outside to get to the bathroom.
Yeah, so the bathroom's on the right side there. We got in Puerto Rico, you're not allowed to put toilet in the can't handle them. You're supposed to put your toilet paper when you're done with it into the wastebasket. Well, habits are habits, okay. Well, we plugged up the sewer system there one day, so they were unplugging that overnight.
And then they told us about the toilet paper. Here's a foundation of the old church that they had before Hurricane Maria took it down the 5 years before. It was meant to be a temporary structure. It was a tent system. But when Hurricane took it down, then they built the new church. But we had our lunches and a lot of our meetings on the area where on the old foundation of the old church.
The meals were prepared by volunteers at the church, and typically it was some type of Puerto Rican food.
That little blue building in the back was where their kitchen was, and they cooked everything there and served it out of there. So Saturday night, this is Christian. He was our main contact person to prepare for the trip. And so he had a get to know you night and kind of talked about who they were, and I think we talked about ourselves. This is our conference room area. This is Saturday night also.
So again, this is the bunkhouses are right to the left. It's one building there that you saw in the background earlier in some pictures, and we had a common room there, which was probably designed to hold 15, and we had over 20 people in it. And the air conditioner on the back wall does not work in that room, so we had to blow air from one of the bedrooms. But yeah, so 2 bunkhouse rooms were air conditioned, fortunately.
This is actually Sunday night. We're getting ready for Bible school the next morning.
We were on that one.
What's that?
Oh, I was just saying we were on that one.
Okay.
So we had an egg dish on Sunday morning. It was raining outside, so we ate inside. This, I assume this was up before Hurricane Maria. It's like a trailer that has the theme of the church on it, which says, enter to praise, leave to serve. And that phrase you'll see when we get to inside the church pictures. You'll see it again on the inside. So we sat in their church service on Sunday morning. Everything was in Spanish, so most of us didn't understand a thing, but we were up front. Does anybody want to talk about the service?
So this is a Baptist church down there. Baptists are more of an evangelical church, so you'll see them do more mission groups. A lot of singing, a lot of praise, a lot of prayers there up front. You can see they've got a band, instruments and that all up there as they work with it.
They had a guest pastor that day. They were in the process of looking for a new pastor or calling a new pastor. So this was a service that was kind of about the background of the church, the foundation, what their, like, the business side of the church, what their rules and regulations and bylaws and kind of stuff like that. And so we didn't understand anything, but apparently the other people behind us were yawning.
And our service is what, was 2 hours? 2.5 hours. So when pastor goes to 1 hour and 10, don't complain.
So I don't know what his service was about, but he used Jenga blocks. So I could imagine if he was talking about their church, it was the Jenga blocks for building, and then he had different people come up and take out blocks, and it never did fall, even though pieces of it were missing.
Next picture, when it comes back on, is we're going up to different communities, stopping by houses and seeing if they have anything they would like to pray for. Ironically, we showed up at this one house and they moved 10 minutes before we got there. So they needed a prayer from us, and we gave them that. And then there was another family that had a loved one that was sick, and so we prayed for them. So there was 2 examples right there of people that needed us to pray for them. We walked around for probably an hour and a half just praying for people. This is old lady. We were walking up the street. She was cutting her lawn with scissors, and we stopped and talked to her and had really good conversation with her. So let somebody else talk now.
Another thing about the prayer walk is that everyone was so willing to let us pray for them. And I mean, maybe if we went around in Kelmer and asked people if we could pray for them, I feel like they would just shut the door on us. But everyone was so willing to give us.
Another story about the prayer walk is that one of the houses that we went to had a couple and their granddaughter, and we actually weren't even going to stop at it, except for Jill heard some noises, so we decided to go back and knock on the door. And it turns out that the man, his mother, I think, had just had to go to the hospital. So it turned out that it was perfect timing that we showed up there. And then these are just like more of the houses. They have really small houses, but they're all like really bright colors compared to here. So that was cool.
as you can see, I found a coconut on the ground. There were so many coconut trees everywhere. And you could just, there were a lot of coconuts. And did you know that bees actually pollinate coconut trees? They actually do. I saw it.
We had one night.
No.
And again, Christian was our lead counselor. Christian plus two young ladies were with him as our counselors. He was the lead counselor, and he would always lead some type of prayer session at night. And then a pastor would work with us too with some prayer sessions as well. Typically, if we could, the weather, we stayed outside as much as possible. It does rain every day there. But typically it's not downpours that last 24 hours like we may see around here. The rain moves in and out. We had to wipe off the picnic tables every day because they were always wet.
The students were also asked to share a faith story, so they had some time before we even got on the plane to think about what they wanted to share. And so some of that was shared in these evening meetings too. Bible study. This is our Vacation Bible School. This is the first day. We got there and there was one room. We were expecting 50-some kids to be divided up in two different groups, and we had one room to do it all in. The air conditioning wasn't on in that room. It was in a community center that had like an open balcony area. So we decided to keep the upper grades in this covered basket. This was going bad too. That's what we used for our Vacation Bible School area. So we kind of had to do things on the fly. One of the things that they told us beforehand is that Puerto Rico has its own time. It's their island time. So this Bible school was supposed to start at 8 o'clock on Monday morning. We were supposed to be there at 7:30, and I think it was.
So this, where we're at is basically, it's an outdoor basketball court, but it's totally covered. And in Puerto Rico, you don't need to have it enclosed or air conditioned. It's a rec center essentially for this neighborhood. This neighborhood is what we call a low-rent housing district that we were in. It's just basically probably half a dozen blocks away from the church where we were staying at. And the teenagers, and we thought by VBS were like elementary kids, but they had two groups. Like she said, the teenagers were actually being bribed to be there. They were told that if they were there every day of VBS on Friday, they would take them to the beach. So they came those days, but they were very welcome, very interested. This is, like I said, the teenage group here in Circles. There were basically three of us that worked with them, myself, and Sheila and Tiffany worked with the teenagers. So Tiffany, I'm gonna get Tiffany to talk now. You want to talk about the teenage group? I got her.
Gosh, so that language, English, right away, that we would be okay, and it helped you translate with the ones who couldn't. And I don't know, I just made some really good connections with the kids. I had a hard time pronouncing their names, so I kind of gave them nicknames. The one girl, every day she came with something red. It was her favorite color, so I called her Rojo. She actually started a Facebook account just so she could be friends with me now that I'm back. And we've been in communication, and she started a new school this year, and she's having a hard time making friends. And she sounded so sad about it. And so I messaged her back, give it time, you're a sweet girl. I said, you'll make some friends. And her next message was, oh, I already met a boy, and he's really cute, and I'm blushing. And I can't do the accent, I wish I could, but it was so sweet, and it was so fun to hear her voice again. they were just a really great group of kids to work with, and I think we kind of all miss them a little bit in the experience that we had.
One of the activities we did that first day with those two, they're all given a banana, the pairs of them, they were given a banana, and they had to cut the banana into 4 pieces. Well, that was simple, but then they had to put it back together. Not so simple. They were given tape, toothpicks, a bunch of different things to try and put it back together. And the point of that is, okay, you can tear somebody down, cut them apart, but putting it back together and building that relationship can be tough. So that was the kind of activity, one of the kind of activities that we did with them. Yeah, even athletic wrap.
So as many of you here, Kaylee started the Kelmer Rock Project for part of her 4-H leadership project out front. Maybe some of you noticed that. We took that idea down to Puerto Rico with us, and on the first day, our theme was kind of like God loves everyone. So the kids painted kindness rocks, and they painted them, and then the next day I epoxied them, and then on the final day we took them around the community, hid the rocks in Puerto Rico, just kind of like we did here. So they had a lot of fun doing that activity, and we kind of our story with them, and yeah. So these are just some of the rocks that the students down there painted.
Alright. So after all the activities, we would play basketball with them, and usually we would do the Puerto Rico people versus us. Brad, do you want to add to it?
How am I supposed to? They were really good at basketball.
So here's our banners. We made a different banner every day, but the theme for the whole week was, who is my neighbor?
And we did them in Spanish. Yeah, this is where the fun begins. So on our first evening service work, we helped the children's church, and so we're painting all the walls. So we had to first start by taking everything that was in the rooms and put it downstairs. So we had to carry everything and organize it. And they had stickers in some of the rooms. So this pictures of us peeling off the stickers, so then we could. So the walls were a very bright color, and what we had to do first, scrape. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so they were bright, but we had to scrape them off because they wanted us to paint them white. So they wanted that because they want the children of their church to come in and paint the walls or put stickers on them or whatever. So the walls were all different colors, but when we left, they were all white. So that's us getting the paint ready to put on the walls and starting to do that.
There was a lot of hurricane damage, so some of there was a lot of hurricane damage to the walls, so we really had to be careful that we got all the layers off, so then there wouldn't be mold when we put the new paint on. And we had to redo a couple things a few times because we didn't do it quite right the way they wanted it. This guy right here was David. He's actually from Wisconsin. The first Sunday when we were down there, we were in church, and obviously they introduced us from being from Iowa. Well, after church, he came up to us, and he was studying abroad down there, and he volunteered his time that week to kind of study along with us. And so he actually went to Bible school with us and was an interpreter for us because language was a huge issue, like we mentioned. And he also came along to the children's church and helped us there with the painting and the scraping and the cleaning. And even on Friday, he came with us when we went to the rainforest and things like that. But he was a huge asset. My boys still keep in contact with him. And he was a good friend that we met too. He was studying music, and he's actually in an army band and in the college band out in Wisconsin where he's from. This was Bobby. She was another one of the Prairie Pelican so she kind of helped set up the projects and kind of told us what to do. And supplies were kind of wanted us to do all these things, but we were kind of limited with our supplies. Like we only had a certain amount of paintbrushes and rollers, and they didn't really give us ladders and things like that.
Yeah. So one of our challenges, we had 19 of us there, and we had 3 rollers, okay, and 3 scrapers, okay. So we're trying to figure out how to keep everybody busy, and it was one of the challenges of a mission trip, okay. They didn't buy a whole bunch of stuff for us to do this, so we had to find ways that we all could work on this together. So we had people scraping, and other people painting, and other people sweeping the floor, and other people with scraping the paint off the floor that we spilled. So a lot of things we kept everybody busy with.
We ended up going back for 3 afternoons to finish this project. So 4. Most of us were there for 3, but a few were there for 4 days. I can talk about crafting. You guys hear crafting, what do you guys think of? Coffee, exactly. That's what we all showed up to a crafting place. I was like, I don't know what kind of coffee I'm going to get, but we go up and there's just all kinds of ice cream. So frappe is actually like a milkshake or an ice cream treat there. So mine was more like a smoothie. I think that's sour Skittles. So it was like kind of a smoothie with sour Skittles and then a bunch of other stuff in there. And this guy's Dax, he got, what is it, a papaya or something like that. It's huge, but that place was very good. It was, yeah. We all tried, like, they had any candies you can think of. They had Nutella, Oreo, cookie dough. So we all went out of our comfort zone, ordered something new, add here, ordered a vanilla shake.
Yeah.
There was probably 50 some items on the menu, and he ordered vanilla, so we had to give him heck for that. And these are just some more pictures of it. Rachel, talk about practicing.
Oh gosh. Okay. At one of is this even fun? Okay, so for what was it? Our Wednesday night service. So there's another church service on Tuesday, and we had to perform a song. So this is all of us in our pajamas practicing our songs, and we actually had to sing one. So.
I don't remember what happened. Wait, what happened?
No, so much
My glasses broke.
This is Chase giving his faith statement.
Here, you want to talk about
The game.
Guys, when you use the microphone, this, not this, this.
So this is chameleon, and it's where you have to there's a person that's a chameleon, and you have to there's a object that you gotta describe or something like that, and the chameleon is trying to guess what the object is. I don't know. This is pretty bad description. Yeah.
They actually got hooked on this game. They're addicted to it. I think they bought one and brought it home even so too. So I think if you weren't aware of this, they started Luther League last Wednesday night. So talk to Spanish Oheim or one of these guys about Luther League if you don't know anybody wants to join it. I think Chameleon's going to be part of the meetings some of these times. So if you don't know what the game is, come to one of the Luther League. This if you're a young person.
Okay, so me and Billy also did skits every day, and the posters that we saw earlier, we made those because that was the theme of the day. And so, that girl there, we got volunteers to help us with our skits, and we thought that they would understand the English, but they didn't, so we actually had to have translators, but yeah.
In this picture, all the kids are wearing yellow shirts. There was 4 different parties that participated in putting on this Vacation Bible School. So it was us, it was the church that we were staying at, the local police, which is more like, a community of friends with those kids there, and then a group called Puerto Rico for Puerto Rico, and that's somebody who was from Puerto Rico, came to the state, a bunch of money, and then he donated it back to Puerto Rico to help the country out, or the state out.
This is a picture on the basketball court. This is where the recreation activities were happening. So I was in charge of putting together the activities for the kids to play, and I had help from Chase, Brad, and Bo, and then I had David, our friend from Wisconsin, there translating. So we broke the kids up into 2 groups, and then we played different games each and every day. So this one was like a obstacle course. You had to be blindfolded and listen and trust the one person that is guiding you. So it's kind of like you have to all your faith in somebody else, so you don't step on one of the balls.
This is just some more that these are the ones that the teenagers painted. The teenagers also painted rocks Tuesday.
It was kind of interesting. The younger kids wrote their words in English. The older kids wrote their words in Spanish.
Yeah, then that language, there's supposedly a dual language. Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States, so they're dual language Spanish and English. So when we're going there, we said, well, everybody studies English every year of school, from kindergarten on up. It's part of their second language. And we were kind of surprised. I think they could understand English a little bit, but they wouldn't speak it or talk to us that way. And we were wondering, why don't they want to learn English? And we had some conversations, and essentially these are poor people. And these kids see no future. The only reason they need to learn English is if they're going to come to the United States. And they never saw any reason to come to the United States. They figured they would stay in their Spanish-speaking neighborhood the rest of their lives. So their poverty themselves limited them in what they were learning and how they were advancing themselves, even though it was there for them to learn.
During this picture, we were handing out care packages. So they would grab a bag and then they would go through the line and we'd give them items. We had toothbrush, toothpaste, hairbrush, soap, wipes, sunscreen. It was just a bunch of things, and we had enough for everyone to get 2 care kits. So they all grace bags. That's what they're called.
So part of the theme of, who is your neighbor was take one and share it, share another. So they had got one thing to keep and one to give to a friend or just somebody else in need.
That's what I said. Yep.
Closing.
Closing, the guards sing the song at the closing there. All of us will get up in front and we sing. Typically, guards sing Spanish if we're good. We handle some well, others not so well.
Some of them joined us. A couple of them would join us.
And then this is just another day at the children's church. You can see we're starting to paint the walls white at this point.
Ceilings.
And the ceilings. And they had like a whole bunch of electronic stuff that we had to cover up and whatnot.
This building hadn't been used for the children's church since COVID started. And so the youth really kind of dropped out of their church services. We didn't see any youth at the adult church. Even when we had youth service, the youth didn't come.
So this is actually the night of the youth service, and this lady here had a beautiful voice, and you can see they had a whole bunch of instruments and sound equipment and whatnot there.
And they projected the words to the songs on the screen, so if you could quickly speak Spanish, then you could sing along.
So this is a Thursday night service, and this was put on just for the VBS people. And the Tuesday night service was very poorly attended, and we thought, okay, we'll do Tuesday night service, be people there, and we're like, okay, we're about the only ones that showed for brother.
This is Tuesday.
Oh, this Tuesday? Oh, okay. Where was the Thursday then? Well, this is Tuesday.
This is the Tuesday service, and there was a picture of me up there, a faith statement in front of the church down there, so that was nice. What else? Me and Sheila gave our faith statements that night. And then we got together after that and we sang a song. Yep, the one that we practiced the night before. The whole congregation was super friendly, and they came and they were talking to us after. That lady in the previous one said that she's my Puerto Rican grandma. So this is Chameleon again, I think. So yep. Now we're on day 5. This is Rachel and Billy doing the skit again. The kids doing the recreation activity. And in Puerto Rico, wherever they fly the Puerto Rico, they also
They made blankets one day. The bigger kids, we gave them 2, one to keep and one to share.
Yeah, and one of the things about the blankets, what we thought we were going to do with the blankets is make them, and then we're going to collect them and then hand them out on Thursday night kind of as a presentation. And it was surprising. As soon as they had the blanket done, they took and hid it somewhere. Like this is something they were afraid they weren't going to be able to keep. Again, it was kind of eye-opening. Again, some of this is a lot of repeat, just to show you each day, doing some of the same things.
That little white room was where the younger kids were.
Oh, yeah.
And there was air conditioning there, but the first day they didn't have it on, so we turned it on the second day.
That's us singing with the Puerto Rican kids at the end of one of our days.
The final coat.
I can talk about that.
That's all the different countries or counties or whatever you want to call territories.
That was Tad driving the van. This is us getting ready to go kayaking on the bioluminescent bay, so that was pretty cool. It's my first time ever kayaking, so that was not good.
So we're walking up to the kayaks, and there are different charter groups there to give you a kayak ride. And the one group is getting on the beach and getting in their kayak, getting their feet wet. We walk up there, and Mika's in the front, and okay, go. He goes, what do you mean go? Well, walk down your kayak. You mean the kayak? Do you water? No, we want to get out on the beach. Nope, you walk to the kayak in the water. So yeah, we finally had to get wet. Which was surprising to me too, because I only bought one pair of shoes, so I was trying to get them dried out for a day or two.
They had identified Mika as a troublemaker from the very beginning. So she didn't have to paddle at all. They tied her canoes in there, and she just ran about the whole time, and they did it the whole time. You were just there for the ride.
I had a smile on my face in the beginning, but about not even 5 minutes in, I was already regretting it.
Turn around. Can't we go back?
Well, the interesting thing about it is you can see it's daylight now, but as they went out, it got dark, and so I didn't go. Pastor and I stayed back, but from what I hear is you couldn't even see anything. Like, it was complete darkness. So just imagine how kind of scary that would be out in this water, not knowing where you're at, and just see light that you're supposed to follow.
So in that picture, can you go back a second? There's a little, almost like a little channel that we went into. The trees were covering it, the roots were sticking out of the sides, and we were canoeing down here. Tad and I were in a group. He apparently had more experience than me, so he got in the back. So we didn't have any issues, but going out, there was, we had a few inexperienced kayakers here, and so they were turning in circles and going this way and going sideways and going backwards, and they were starting to figure it out by the time we got out into the bay.
So yeah, basically it's evening or just before dusk right now, heading out to the bioluminescent bay. And what the bioluminescent bay was is when we got out there, and it had to be at night obviously, you put your hand down in the water, you swished it around, it glowed. Okay, and they actually put tarps over us, and you picked your paddle up, your paddle sparkled, because algae, when it got disturbed, it put out light. And it's only one of two in the world, I think, or five in the world.
I think most of them were in the Puerto Rico area.
So we go down there, obviously, in the light, which is good, because that's people who didn't know how to kayak, and at least learn a little bit. And then coming back, again, that thing is essentially a tunnel in the trees. It is pitch black. The kayaks had lights on the front and the back, a little LED light, so you could see a kayak in front of you, but that's all you could see. So yeah, it was interesting coming back. You assumed you were still in your group and you were following the right person, but nobody drowned, nobody fell out of their kayaks.
We were supposed to be following this little red light in front of us. Well, the lights were all over because people were turning sideways, and it was very interesting. When we saw the lights going all over and could hear the canoes crashing, we decided to slow down and stay back.
This is our last morning at VBS.
Hiding the rocks.
Last picture, we were playing Frisbee. The kids on there, they love Frisbee, and we put our own free time as well. So it was really cool teaching them something that they don't play much of.
So then the next photos here are us out hiding the kindness rocks around their community. So each of them took some of their rocks that they painted, or I brought down a whole bunch too, and they just hid those around. And this is up in the littler kids' area, that what last picture was. And we did the arts and crafts up there in the story time. I led the service project area. Tammy led the arts and crafts, and Mika and Sophie were over there doing the story time. So, and then the little kids went down to Chance at the basketball court for their recreation activities.
So in this activity, we're with the teenagers again, and we're talking about welcome to your home, welcome to your community. So they had there on a big poster paper design a resort that's very welcoming to everybody. So the teenagers are there drawing their resorts and then sharing their ideas. Swimming pools, things like that. One of the interesting things I found, again, talking about a cultural difference there, one of them drew a building which they're staying in the resort and has blackout curtains on it. I said, why are your blackout curtains? So nobody can see in and see me. They were so concerned about their privacy, so like they don't have a lot of privacy there.
That's just some more of the basketball that they would play with the Puerto Rican students.
And Pastor brought his guitar, and a little bit of a concern because you have a limited size that you can put as a check-in bag, otherwise you pay an extra $100. So we thought, and I called Sun Country several times, and she said, well, just bring it, see what happens. Well, fortunately, on the way down, we had no problem checking it. They just took it out as a regular check bag and put it in there. And then coming back, I got a little concerned because we get up to the front desk to check the bag, and says, no, I'm not going to check that. I says, this is a very expensive guitar. We have to get it home. No, I'm not going to check it. And I started arguing with Lacey. And she said, just wait, listen. I'm not going to check because this can get damaged when it's checked. You don't know how those people have it. You guys are going to take this as a carry-on. I'm going to let the person at the gate know. And Mika is going to be the first one on that plane, and she's going to put it above in the bins. Okay. It'll take up 2 or 3 spaces, but I'm not going to check it. I'm going to let you take it as carry-on. They didn't charge us anything for it. So kudos to Sun Country, okay? I was a little worried about them doing a group rate with them all, but they really bent over backwards to accommodate us.
So at the beginning when I said we were in the children's church for 3 days, it was because the majority of us went to the farm on the 4th day. Some of us stayed back and finished painting, but all of the kids, I think, except one, went to the farm, and Tiffany went with us, and we took a tour around the farm. They look a lot different than farms around here. It was a plant farm, so there was a bunch of plants that they sell, and then there was a couple cows, goats, a couple other animals too. Can't really remember, but us as a group got more work done than they would get done in like 3 days, I think, and an hour and a half. So it's only like 3 or 4 people that work on this farm, so they really appreciated us coming and helping them.
Which again is a cultural difference. Puerto Ricans have a laid-back attitude. They would have to get it done now. Well, up here in northern Iowa and Minnesota, we get out, get it done, and get back to things. So a little bit difference in the way we approach things. The other thing is, this was kind of neat that they did that. I was not part of that. I stayed back to finish up our painting jobs. We had a few things to do here yet. When you do a service project, one I guess benefits I thought going on a mission trip is you're going to interact with a lot of different people when you're helping them out, painting their houses or whatever. I was disappointed in our service project there because all we did is work in this children's church and interacting with about 2 people from the church. We didn't get that chance. When they went out to farm, they got a chance to interact with some more people, so that was really beneficial and a really great thing. Wish we could have mixed more of that in, but again, you are at the mercy of what's going on by that local church.
So what we did basically was we just potted a bunch of different plants with the dirt so then they could sell them. And yes, Tiffany, it was better than painting.
So I did want to say something about that. So that was me and the kids' joke. This is so much better than painting. And I teased them, like, come the first few weeks of school, I'm going to email them. This is so much better than painting. I'm sitting at my desk at work. Well, last week there was a race at Luther College. And if you remember last Saturday, it was pouring rain and it was a little cold. And some of our kids ran in that race. And Brad looked at me. And that is one of the first times I have not seen Brad with his trademark smile. And he said, Tiffany, this is not better than painting. I think I have hypothermia. So
and my story too, I just want to reiterate what a great group of kids this is, and I love the memories that we all made and that we're going to carry on.
Okay, there's several slides here of downtown San Juan. We spent the afternoon on Thursday in downtown San Juan. So I kind of flipped through these. You guys can talk about them as we go through.
This is kind of Central Square area.
So this is our first stop. We're checking out the view. I don't know the name of it, but yeah, we're at some castle. Do you know the name of it? The fort. Fort.
This is their government building designed to be like the Capitol in DC, Washington, DC.
We found that living in San Juan is a lot more pricey than living in other areas of Puerto Rico.
Can you stay here for a second? There's a lot of graffiti in San Juan, but this one was actually, they hired somebody to put this on. So the Hurricane Maria went through in 2017, and it took out their entire electrical system, so a lot of the people
Had moved, who could afford to. 50%
of the population
That was the elderly, and the rest of them were low economic status. So a lot of people didn't make it through this hurricane, and they didn't have electricity for a year. Well, come to find out that their government had hid the money someplace, and people were dying when their money was available, and they didn't share it. So they hired somebody to come in, put this graffiti on, because their country was having a protest against the government, and that governor did end up resigning his position.
Okay. So this is us. We took a walk to the other side of San Juan, and we had time to tour or do what we want. We could go on our own or in groups of 2 or 3. So that last picture was a picture of me and Billy running. We couldn't run too much down there, but we took that chance of free time and we took it and we ran around there. We ran, I think it was 3 miles, but it was harder than running 8 here. It was super hilly there, and it was super hot. So 3 miles and we were exhausted.
These are a couple of 4-foot iguanas. Iguanas, they call them more like rats.
They're just kind of a nuisance, but they're
There all the time, and you know.
Who went on the tour? Sophie, you went on the tour. You talk about what you saw.
I don't really remember.
Jill?
So at this one fort, we went on a tour. We had to pay to get into this tour. And these are just pictures of like different barracks, is that what you call it? Like where they had to stay, where they had to live. There was different cannons, just a lot of history about some of the officers and different things like that. But it was pretty cool to see.
The streets were really narrow, and you know, this street, they're parking on one side, and there's barely enough room for a car to get on the other side. That picture of the basketball court, that area is at. They told us that it's like a big gang in San Juan, and if we would go down and play on that basketball court, we would probably get hurt because they called that area outside the wall. We were not. There's a picture of the wall in a cemetery.
So after our tour of San Juan Thursday night, we're having a VBS come back together, and was starting earlier on Tuesday night. We were a little disappointed in the attendance there, and we're thinking, geez, we're going to do the same Thursday night. We're going to be the only ones there again. And we were really surprised and shocked and overly pleased about the number of kids and their parents that actually showed up to do it for our Thursday night service. So we're a few slides here.
So we put up all the signs that we made throughout the day. Like we said before, we made 2 each day, 1 in Spanish and 1 in English. So we displayed them so their parents could see what they made. This is Savannah giving her faith statement and Bobby translating for her. And that was Tiffany giving her faith statement. And this is Chase with our friend Yoshel.
Masks were mandated inside the building.
And now there's a bunch of pictures of just people that we met. Yeah, that's Rojo. And this is Leonel.
Your brother and sister.
Yep. Another picture. We brought down, because we actually got a couple grants from Thrivent, so we got a bunch of shirts and we brought them down and we gave them each a shirt, and we all wore one as well to the service. So we wore the Live Generously shirts. And this is us giving like our final goodbye hug. So day 7, Friday. Getting on the bus, I believe we're going to the rainforest. Okay. There's some pictures. We couldn't go all the way to the top or whatever because of the construction hurricane.
It takes about 5 years for the rainforest to regrow after a major hurricane, so it's just regrowing now, and now there is another hurricane.
Yep. We all went to the top of that building up there. There's Bo in front of it. Pastor Mika, Avery and Tammy. Pastor on the phone.
Cell phone service wasn't that the greatest there, so he's up there to get his.
Yeah. Pastor again. And then that was us waiting to head to the next spot, because we went to the top and then we drove down and we stopped every once in a while to explore. There's some of us walked to the crawl up, yeah.
Up on this big rock by a waterfall.
There. And that's our group picture, and then, yeah.
Then we all headed back to the church. This was Friday. Dad's not here.
No.
It's Dad's birthday on this day. So some of them went back. The first band went back to the church. Dad was in our band, and so they decided to show us some of the neighborhood. And they pulled up to the church, and then they were talking to each other in Spanish, and then we took off again. And we thought, well, what's going on? What's going on? It's like, never mind. And so they showed us around some of this neighborhood that they lived in, and a house that they were looking to buy to use as a bunkhouse for missionaries, and then we went back. Well, they weren't ready for us and for a surprise for Dak's birthday.
And that last picture was us, Kaylee and Mom, they bought the game Chameleon, and there was 2 in stock, and so we mixed up groups, and we went back, and they found it, and then another group of us went, and they were out, but then they found one like on the shelf somewhere, so we were in panic, because one of the groups couldn't find it, so they were like, oh, we don't got it. But then 2 of us actually had bought it, so that's what a Walmart looks like down there. This is us pulling into our ARVB. Me and the boys, we lived in the side apartment. That was really nice. And then the adults were in the main house, and the girls were in the other side. This is me and Bo. Friday night supper.
It was supposed to be this great barbecue place. So we were looking for a sit-down meal.
It's pretty good.
More like a fast food place, and they had to pull every empty chair or every chair in the whole place so we could all sit at least in the same room together. It wasn't
And right after that, we walked down to the beach. It was several of our first time ever being there. In less than 5 minutes, all of our eyes were just burning. And we stayed for a couple hours, had a really fun time. And we said we were going to get up in the morning and go at sunrise to swim again. We ended up sleeping in a little bit, then we did go back. But you had to shower like really good because of all the water and all the seaweed and stuff. It was, yeah. But it was super fun. And this is us playing Chameleon again. We played that game for hours. It was so fun. And this is me, Brad, Chase, and Bo in our room. Yeah. That was a cat. Every house either has a dog or a cat, it seems like, down there. Breakfast, we were in charge of preparing our own breakfast. Some of our room, we made it in our room, and then the girls made it in the main room. So,
started taking pictures the last day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Does anybody have any questions for the group here? Well, well, we would just like to thank you all for your generous support of making this mission trip